I'm not a lawyer, but this is the part 2 recap for day 4 of the YSL Rico trial. Before I get into it, I want to remind you that the state is trying to prove a number of things in this trial. But a couple of the ones that you should be aware of are: number 1, they want to prove that YSL is a criminal street gang. And number 2, they want to prove that members of the gang committed crimes in order to benefit the gang. So even when Young Thug or other defendants are not specifically involved or mentioned in a crime, the state's position is that the crimes were done to benefit the entire gang. And bringing up all the crimes that YSL members allegedly committed is how the state is trying to prove that YSL is a criminal street gang. So those 2 reasons are how and why the state is saying that this is a RICO case. Hopefully that makes sense. I saw some people in my comments asking, so I wanted to talk about it. Okay, now let's talk about witnesses. Sergeant Jonathan Heeb was the first witness that came up after lunch. He's an officer with APD, and he was called on the stand to testify about overt act number 3 in the indictment, which reads that Shannon Stillwell, an associate of YSL, had possession of marijuana with the intent to distribute. Sergeant Heeb says that on August 23, 2013, he and another officer went to the Cleveland Avenue area in plain clothes looking to find and apprehend Shannon Stillwell for a probation violation. They eventually come upon him, identify him, and apprehend him. And when they did so, they found a couple items on him. Oh, and the judge restricted video of the witnesses for the rest of the day.
Sergeant Heeb, would you please tell the jury what items of evidence were collected, or rather read the report that is before you?
Sure. So the property that was recovered from Mr. Stillwell, a key ring with 2 house keys that was turned in his property, 1 pair of white Samsung headphones that were turned in his property, 50 individually packaged red plastic baggies containing marijuana that was turned in as evidence. 1 clear plastic baggie containing marijuana was turned in as evidence, and a consent to search form for the location at 322 Glen was turned in as evidence as well.
So that is the basis for overt act number 4. Shannon Stillwell's attorney, Max Sharp, does the cross-examination of Sergeant Heeb, and here's a clip of some of the things he asked him.
Correct.
Okay, and you charged my client, Shannon Stillwell, with possession with marijuana.
Yes.
You did not charge Shannon Stillwell with any gang charges.
No.
After Sergeant Heeb, the next witness was another officer who was there when Shannon Stillwell was arrested. He essentially gave a similar story as Sergeant Heeb's story, so I won't replay that. But here's a clip of Shannon's attorney on cross-exam with the second officer.
Do you have any evidence as to where he got this marijuana from?
No.
Do you have any evidence of what he was planning to do with this money that he was going to make from these marijuana sales?
No, I don't have any information on that.
I have nothing further. Thank you.
Next, the state moves on to overt act number 4, which says that Jeffrey Williams, aka Young Thug, as an associate of YSL, committed the felony offense of theft by stolen property when he possessed a firearm belonging to Andrew and Ann Phillips. So the witness they call up regarding this matter is Andrew Phillips. Andrew is an Atlanta resident, and he testified that he came home from vacation back in 2013 and found that his door was open and 2 of his firearms were missing.
What all did you find was missing inside your home?
Specifically 2 firearms. One was a handgun, one was a shotgun, I believe a laptop, and a blanket, to be exact.
A blanket?
Blanket.
What kind of blanket?
Like a blanket that had been over the back of an armchair.
And had you specifically spoken to anyone or a person by the name of Jeffrey Williams and given him permission to hold or to have your firearm?
No, ma'am.
Were any of the other items that were stolen from your home ever recovered, as far as you know?
No, ma'am.
Once he wraps his testimony with the prosecutor, Keith Adams gets up and does the cross-exam.
It's a gun. It's a black gun, right?
Yes, sir.
Looks kind of like the gun that you had, right?
Correct.
But you don't know the serial number.
Correct.
Right. And so you can't identify. I mean, there's more than one black gun out there in the world, right?
I can say, yes, sir, but when they called me with that gun specifically, they had matched the serial number to the serial number that I had submitted.
Okay. You don't know that serial number. You can't recognize it by that serial number.
Not off the top of my head, no, sir.
All right.
After Andrew Phillips, the state calls Officer Manheim. He's an officer with APD. He comes to the stand to testify about the time he pulled a car over and found a firearm under the seat.
On the date that you had mentioned, I was sitting at the intersection of Techwood Drive and 14th Street. I observed a black Dodge Challenger. It was traveling westbound in the middle lane, which is a straight lane only. And it passed me in the straight lane only, and then it made a left-hand turn. As you approach that intersection, there is a right turn lane only, and that is clearly labeled with the sign saying right lane must turn right. I observed him traveling that, and he continued straight, merging on the I-75-85 southbound ramp from 10th Street. At that time, I made a traffic stop on the vehicle. This is the firearm that I had recovered that was underneath the front passenger seat. I ran that on ACIC to see if the firearm was reported stolen, and it was reported stolen out of the city of Atlanta.
Now for his cross-examination, Brian Steele gets up to do that.
And that burglary, from what you read, is 2 months before you run into Jeffrey Williams on September 9, 2013. Is that right?
That is correct.
You don't have any information at all that Mr. Williams is involved in the burglary of Mr. Phillips or Miss Phillips' home. Is that true?
That is true.
Okay. Okay. He didn't flee from you or anything. You blue lighted him, you pulled over, and you approached the car.
That's true.
Okay. And Mr. Williams was totally professional and cooperative with you. Is that fair to say?
He was cooperative.
So you know how long that gun was under the passenger seat floorboard?
I've got no idea how long it was underneath there.
Okay, that is the wrap up of day 4. There's no court tomorrow, so they and I will be back on Monday, December 4th. Okay?